Welcome to the stream. This is your host from Apex Reaction. The official testing from Bahrain season, it's officially over. And in this video, I'm just going to go through all the teams and I'm going to rank them from top to bottom. Starting with the bottom, obviously in 11th place. No surprises here, but we have the Aston Martin in last place. They've managed to complete 334 laps across 6 days of testing, which is basically 252 laps than the lowest team, Cadillac. And they actually they're putting Cadillac look good in the picture. And I mean, there's pictures from the major people from Aston Martin, and you can see they all look defeated. You see, the Canadian billionaire here. He doesn't want to be seen by the media, and if you look at his face, he just looks the most defeated man on the planet. Obviously, he invested a lot of money into this team. They built the wind tunnel in 2002. They obviously hired one of the most talented people into Formula One to Aston Martin, one of them being Andrew Newey, who also has a new position in Aston Martin, and he basically developed the car from scratch. And the fact that they're in partnership with Honda and the car is not able to perform. They can't even perform more than 6 laps. All of the stints that they've done is basically short stints because they can't afford to go for longer stints, because if they do, the engine will overheat and the car will essentially blow up. I mean, Stroll as well. He's not very optimistic about the car. He didn't. The sentiment that I get from him, he didn't say one good thing about the team or the car, and there's frustrations all over Aston Martin garage. We see another picture from Andrew Newey looking defeated, just thinking what needs to be done, what is the solution here. But again, at this stage, I don't think there's much that Aston Martin can do. It's completely outside of their hands. The power unit is developed by Honda. Honda, personally, they haven't had a great experience in Formula One. They had the same issue with McLaren back in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, if I got my dates correct. And yeah, they don't seem to know what the issue is. They released a statement a couple weeks ago, and basically they said our last run with Fernando Alonso yesterday showed the battery-related issue that impacted our test plan with Aston Martin, a Aramco Formula One team. Since then, we've been carrying out simulations on the test bench in HRC Sakura. Due to this and a shortage of power unit parts, we have adapted today's run plan to be very limited and consistent, only of shorter stints. Essentially, they don't. Not only there's an issue with the power unit, they don't seem to have enough parts to allow testing to carry out. So yeah, Aston Martin, we have no idea if Aston Martin will be able to complete a lap in Australia in 2 weeks' time. So I don't know. The internet obviously is trolling Aston Martin, and it seems like Fernando Alonso will have to complete at least 1 or 2 laps on his own. But yeah, the internet doesn't forgive. Aston Martin doesn't look too good. They were able to attend the Barcelona shakedown testing for 1 or 2 days, 1.5 days. But even so, it was not enough. And on the final days of Bahrain pre-season, everything's starting to fall apart. Moving on 10th place, I think there's no surprises here either. We have Cadillac, obviously another American team joining the Formula One grid. There's rumors that Cadillac have been investing, spending like $20 million per month on his way before they got approved into Formula One. So they obviously are aiming big. Their commitment is massive. There's no way you're gonna invest 20 million per month without being approved, and the commitment has to be there. And the fact that they already spent 1 billion before a single race lap, uh, for me, it shows that they are committed for the long run. They're not here for just to show they're the new kid on the block. But Cadillac, obviously, there's no surprises for them. They don't have any experience on the grid. In fact, the only experience that they seem to have is the two drivers that they hired, being Bottas and Paris. For me, these two drivers, they seem very competitive. They have pretty much the same experience. If you look at the stats between the two drivers, in terms of performance and skills, there's not much that uh, there's literally anything between the two. Obviously, Bottas running for Mercedes, helping Lewis Hamilton getting a lot of championships under while at Mercedes, and Bottas helping Max Verstappen achieving one or two titles at Red Bull. They obviously have a lot of experience. Then they need this because outside of this, Cadillac doesn't seem to have a lot of experience. And I just think they did exactly what most people expected to be on the back of the field, with the exception of Aston Martin, obviously. So, yeah, one of the other headlines that, the Cadillac team was making was basically off the grid with Michael Bay, one of the most famous directors from Hollywood, basically seeking 1.5 million in damages. He allegedly Cadillac that hired him to create a high-profile commercial that was displayed during the Super Bowl last month, I believe, or 2 weeks ago, and he basically they cut him off, didn't pay him for his creativity, which essentially he claims that he did the work but didn't get paid for it. So a typical from America, creating a lot of drama even before the race starts. It's nice to see that another American team is joining the grid. We also have to understand that Formula One is now owned by Liberty Media, which is an American company. And this is why we're starting to see Formula One reaching new heights and having new commercial deals with Apple TV and that kind of thing. We also starting to see a lot of sponsorship deals from American companies into Formula One, like the likes of Microsoft, Google, IBM, Oracle, and many more. But it's nice to see another American team joining the grid. As I said, there's no high expectations for Cadillac. They obviously had reliability issues on preseason testing, like everyone else did. But yeah, moving on. In ninth place, I think it's fair to assume that Williams haven't done that a good. They haven't won a. They're not exactly where they expected to be. They completely missed the Barcelona shakedown testing because they failed to. They were overweight and they failed the FIA tests that allowed them to be on the grid. The fact that they completed the Barcelona shakedown tests, but they were able to be clock a decent amount of laps during the Bahrain season, it's quite surprising. I'm actually impressed by Williams' performance in Bahrain. And obviously they have a Mercedes engine, which is technically one of the best engines on the grid so far. So I don't have high hopes for Williams for this season. I expect them to be a middle pack in a middle field pack this season again. But then again, amazing performance in Bahrain. But Williams, they have plenty of work to do. Obviously, the drivers, Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz, they seem to be very competitive. Even though Sainz got 2 podiums last season, I believe he got 2 podiums. There's in terms of performance and skill, there's not much difference. So I'm expecting Williams to be collecting points week in, week out, without any issues. But then again, no surprises there. Moving on to the next team, I think this one is a bit debatable. A lot of people will put the Racing Bulls slightly ahead. In my personal opinion, I just think the Racing Bulls, again, we have a new rookie on the grid, Arvin Lindblad, which is basically clocked the most laps in last day of testing in Bahrain. I think he clocked 126 laps, 126 or 113, something like that. But I think there's a reason why they made him do that many laps, because he's going to need it. He's the only rookie driver on the grid so far. So with this new regulations, he needs to clock as many laps as possible. Leon Lawson, again, looked solid throughout the entire Bahrain session. It's good to see him. He was in a good spirit. He was in a good mood. He seems optimistic. And then again, I just think Racing Bulls clocked a lot of miles. I think they were in top 5. They clocked 1,051 laps to be exact. And they seem solid. Another thing that is important to highlight is the fact that they also have the Red Bull powertrains engine, which was basically developed by Red Bull a couple years ago, and this is the first time that they actually testing this season. So they look solid. They don't look too far off from the top 4 teams. But then again, I think the major surprise here is the new rookie. It seems like he adapted quite well to the new regulations. He didn't crash. I don't think he crashed during the Bahrain preseason testing. I saw him going off track a couple times, but nothing major. So, yeah, moving on to the next team, I think in 7th position is fair to add Audi. I think Audi has one of the most insane designs and is one of the most polarized topics on social media at the moment. Delivery, the side pods. The side pods is something that I haven't seen before in Formula One, but apparently is not something new. Obviously, Audi hiding a lot of this in the last, only being able to display this in the last 3 days of testing. This was not the initial car that they displayed in a livery event. But like all the other teams, they all were hiding a lot of technical details for, everyone is hiding performance, everyone hiding technical details, design. Is very common in Formula One. But yeah, so the Audi AirPods, we can clearly see some, a close-up pictures of the design of the side pods on an Audi R26. It looks super cool. As for the colors, the more I look at this car, the more I feel like, I don't know, I'm still in between. I don't know. It's one of those things, you either hate it or love it. But for me, I don't have a stance. I need more time to look at this car. I need to see podiums in order for me to fall in love with the car. But it looks dope. Again, we have Hulkenberg and Gabriel Bortoleto. The both drivers completed solid laps around the last day of testing. In fact, I think they completed 953 laps altogether, which basically puts them in bottom 4. They also had reliability issues, but then again, you have to understand that the new regulations were changed, in fact, to suit the power unit developed by Audi. So Audi, they shouldn't be too far off um, the pace of the top four teams. In fact, the fastest lap, not the fastest lap, but the speed trapped was clocked by Hulkenberg. I think these guys have a rocket underneath the engine. So I think they have the pace, but obviously there's more work to be done in order to compete with the top four. But I don't think Audi will be compete for championship this year. I don't think they will be competing for construction world construction ships this season. But I think it's expected for them to finish to be around mid pack again. Fighting for those titles, for those points with the likes of Williams, Haas, Alpine, and so forth. Um, um, in sixth position, I think it's fair to add Alpine, but again, this is only my personal view. I think Pierre Gasly did an amazing job last year. I think he collected 100% of the points for Alpine. Colapinto, there was a couple question marks on top of his head, whether he was going to remain, going to have a seat for 2026 Formula One. And obviously he made it. And I was actually surprised with his pace. He was actually able to clock a decent laps. Throughout the Bahrain testing session. He was very consistent. He was, it was in general, Alpine were like top four, top five, which is not too bad comparing. If you compare, obviously, the four teams, and Alpine had a very bad performance last season. If you compare them the performance that they had in preseason testing, they're not as bad as they did last season. So to see Colapinto being able to perform lap after lap, I just hope that he succeeds this season, and he needs to perform this season because last season didn't do so well. There's obviously a couple shots here with the new livery. I'm not too big fan of the pink. I think it's just too bright. There's too much pink. But yeah, then again, Alpine, they also have a Mercedes engine. So let's see what the Alpine is able to do this year. Moving on to a fifth position, I had to go for Haas. Has they completed 1,185. Can't even pronounce the words. They completed 1,185 laps, put them in top two of total laps completed by all the teams. They have a Ferrari engine. We also know the Ferrari and the Mercedes engines, they possibly have one of the best engines or engines or power units on the grid. So I was really impressed with Oliver Behrman. I think he was able to step up a bit this preseason testing. Ocon, obviously, he had an amazing season last year. I think he did great, and then again, I think the discrepancies between the two in terms of skill level and performance is very, it's very competitive between the two. There's nothing that separates them. Obviously, Oliver Behrman being the younger driver, and for me, he surprised me the most out of the two drivers, and I think they'll be taking a lot of points this season away from top teams. My expectations for Oliver Behrman, not just Oliver Behrman in general, but for the Haas team, I expect them to get one or two podiums this season. Am I being too optimistic? Maybe, but I think Haas did a great job. It's nothing major that I gathered from this team. There was no major drama. There was no anything that stood out for me in terms of designs and technical issues that they had. They didn't cause the most drama during the preseason testing. Obviously, the sentiment that I get from Oliver Bearman is that he is comfortable with the new regulations. He's comfortable with the car. He's more optimistic about going into 2026, and I think he fancies one or two podiums this season. Then again, he's rightly so, because he has a Ferrari engine, and we all know, whoever witnessed what the preseason testing, we all witnessed what the Ferrari did on the grid. So having a Ferrari engine under your bonnet, you can do a lot of damage this season. So I'm confident that Haas will do amazing things this season. But yeah, in fourth position, I have to put the Red Bulls, the RB22. Obviously, the duo Max Verstappen and Isaac Hajar. Obviously, we also had Yuki as being a reserve driver, as being demoted, unfortunately, last season. And Red Bull, there was a lot of speculations and rumors coming from Toto Wolff, suggesting that Red Bull have set the benchmark for the Bahrain testing, claiming that Red Bull possibly have the best car on the grid. And you also have to take consider that Red Bull have developed their own powertrains. So this is the first time that developed their own engine. So it's quite impressive to see as a team develop their own engine for the first time and not having that many reliability issues, and the performance doesn't seem to be off of the top three contenders so far. For me, obviously, there's an interesting partnership with Ford. And if you look at the Ford history in Formula One, you have to consider that Ford possibly has one of the most powerful engines in Formula One. Not one of the most powerful, one of the most successful engines in Formula One. So it's an interesting partnership that they done with Ford. And also the fact that we have the Isaac Hijack, which was basically a rookie last season, and coming in to replace Yuki. It will be interesting to see how he performs this season, because this seat has been a hot seat for the last 5 years or so, and Max has dispatched 4 or 5 drivers in the last 2 years. So I have expectations for Hazik. I hope he will succeed better than the previous drivers did. I think Max is backing up Hazik. I think he's seen enough from Isaac, and he says he's got his fully support. So whatever that duo will work or not remains to be seen. Obviously, if you compare the duo from last season in Red Bull, they had one of the worst duo drivers. Max collected pretty much 93% of the points on the grid, where Yuki only collected the remaining 7. And so that driver partnership didn't really work well for Red Bull. They were not able to fight for construction championships. So let's hope that this season will be a turnaround for the Red Bull. Obviously, Max made a few comments regarding the new regulations, and now with the new hybrid system in the power units, the electrical power, and all the power management that drivers have to do. I'm just paraphrasing here, but he said something along the lines that these cars, they just feel like Formula E cars on steroids, something like that. But he's not a big fan. He doesn't think driving is no longer a thing that drivers are able to do. It's more something to do with the mechanics. But yeah, Fernando Alonso kind of agreed with him. There's a couple drivers that did agree with what he said. But yeah, you know, Red Bull, are Red Bull going to be able to fight for the championship this season? I'm not too convinced at this point. Honestly, I'm not too convinced at this point. Uh, the sentiment that I get from Max is that he knows there's a lot of teams on a grid, especially he thinks Mercedes and Ferrari, they're doing sandbagging. They're hiding a lot of performance, which is again, I've said this before, is not something new. Everyone is doing, at least the top four teams, they're doing this so-called term, the sandbagging, which is basically to hide performance and pace. But you know, Melbourne is just around the corner, and we're gonna find out how much these teams are actually hiding from one another. Um, in third place, I had to put McLaren. The new MCL 40 for me, it looks solid. I haven't seen any crazy concepts from the previous car compared to this new car. It just looks solid. It looks vibrant. It looks good. The reason why you have to put them in top three is because McLaren they are world championship. They won world championship last year, and also they won the construction championship last year. And for me, I think they have. You also have to consider that they have the Mercedes engine, which is possibly one of the top two engines at the moment, the most powerful power units on the grid. And on top of that, for me, in my opinion, they have the best to-do drivers on the grid. Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, they fought for the championship. They went all the way until the last race. So it means that, both drivers, given a competitive car, both drivers are able to extract every single point out of any race. In fact, they able to take pole, they're able to win races, and the fact that they have a competitive due, for me, it makes them, and they won the world championship last year. For me, makes them very competitive this season, and obviously they also completed a lot of laps. In fact, they had one of two sessions where Norris or Oscar would be on top of the timesheets, was either in the morning or in the afternoon. So it seems like they also had a pace. They completed overall 105 laps, not 105 laps, 1,105 laps overall, put them in top four position, which for me is very solid. Then again, I think McLaren, having a Mercedes engine, they're also hiding pace. And there was an interesting video that I saw from Lando Norris of the start of the race, where they were doing the simulations when the red lights were going off, and he had an amazing acceleration at the start of the race. He took almost 3 to 5 or 4 positions, and he was unfortunately he had to slow down because he ran out of room. But yeah, the McLarens, top 3 without a doubt. In second position, obviously, I would put the Ferraris. Leclerc, having topping the time sheets on the last day of testing. Ferrari, this season, Ferrari just looks unstoppable. Everything about Ferrari just looks nice and tiddy. Lewis, we've seen tremendous pace from Lewis. The Ferraris, they slow down on corners. They brake way later than all the other cars. I think there's a video here. I'll show you later, but one thing that I've noticed about Lewis Hamilton is that this season he seems very optimistic. I haven't seen Lewis Hamilton this happy in what, almost 3-4 years. Last year was just miserable. He was considering giving up his position for another driver. He said some horrible things on his social media that like he wasn't good enough. Remind you, this is coming from a guy who won 7 world championships, and he was just beating himself down constantly on social media. But this season, he has said some pretty things. I mean, I'm just going to read one of the last quotes or statements that he put on social media, and but this is not the full statement from his social media. He said, "I'm reset and refreshed. I'm not going anywhere. So stick with me. For a moment, I forgot who I was, but thanks to you and your support, you are not going to see that mindset again." And he goes on and on and on, and he says he's now ready to fight. He's now ready to race. He's now in a position where he thinks he belongs, fighting for championships. So the sentiment that I get from that is coming from Lewis Hamilton is very strong. He looks very optimistic. He looks very confident in that car. It seems like the new regulations kind of suit him. I've seen there's this clip here where he's basically they're doing a practice race start, and he goes from sixth position to a first before even the first corner, and he basically overtakes like 5 or 6 cars, which basically shows it shows the tremendous pace that Ferrari have. But one thing that we have to consider as well, we actually don't know how much of the cars in front were actually pushing to the fullest. We don't know that, but regardless, you can't discredit the pace that we are seeing here. But yeah, one thing that I will say is that I still think Leclerc will continue to dominate Lewis. I'm not saying this to discredit Lewis. I'm just saying based on Lewis Hamilton age, I just think he's gone past his prime. Last season, Leclerc, I mean, a lot of people will argue, well, Leclerc has been with Ferrari for so many years, Lewis going into Ferrari on his first Formula One season with Ferrari, he needed to adapt. I don't think that's the case. Lewis Hamilton is possibly one of the drivers with most experience on a grid. So using that as an excuse, I don't think is valid. But for me, Leclerc just being solid. Even when Sainz was there, he dominated Sainz. He dominated Lewis Hamilton last season. And based on what I've seen from him on the last day of testing in Bahrain, he was able to clock the fastest lap multiple times. I think he had 6 fastest lap throughout the entire session. And I still continue to believe that Leclerc might be more likely to win the championship than Lewis. But again, this is just my predictions. Another interesting thing that we saw from the Ferrari engineering team was basically the rotation wing on the SF26. This reminded me of one of those things that you actually see on a kebab shop. You have that thing that is spinning the meat, and that's exactly what we are seeing. This was raising a lot of eyebrows on the grid. Whatever this is, a brilliant piece of engineering remains to be seen. Why do I say this? Because if it's great, most teams would obviously trying to implement this with the next upgrades when, I don't know, is it mid-season that they're able to bring new upgrades? If this is really gives them the edge like they claim to do so, that it gives them like an extra 10 miles per hour on a straight, and obviously when you lift and you're starting to brake, the rotating wing close to increase drag in corners, and that's exactly what you need. If this does exactly what they claim to do, then I guess most teams will adopt. But if most teams don't adopt, I'm not so sure, if I'm not convinced if whatever this is a great piece of engineering or not. That remains to be seen. But yeah, it was nice to see all the technical details coming from different teams. And I think Ferrari, without a doubt, surprised most people on a grid. The fans were really shocked with Ferrari's pace. And it seems like Ferrari at the moment is almost 1 second faster than the second best, which was the McLaren, Lando Norris, um, um, clocking in the second fastest lap. But even so, that's quite impressive. Charles Leclerc looking calm, just having his drink. But he actually, there's an interesting post here that he actually said what I've been saying throughout the entire video. And he says, I think everybody's hiding their game, and everybody's trying to say that it's the other teams who is the fastest. Again, sandbagging, it's a thing in Formula One, and everyone is doing it, not just top 4 teams, but I think the middle field teams, they're also doing that. Melbourne is just around the corner, and we obviously going to see the true pace of every single team. Last but not least, we obviously have the Mercedes in number 1 position. Russell, according to the critics, according to the pundits, according to Formula One fans, and everyone that is being able to witness the preseason testing, Russell is slightly favored to win the championship. I think for Mercedes, they have an amazing pace. I've seen the accelerations of the Mercedes, and they just obliterate every single one on a grid by miles. I've seen Antonelli, which Antonelli for me surprised me the most, given that he doesn't have as much as experience as Russell does on a grid. The fact that he was able to constantly clock in the fastest lap for Mercedes is quite astonishing achievement. And Antonelli looks solid, and I think this year Antonelli is going to be way more competitive than he was last year. So he's going to give him. I think he's going to give Russell quite of a headache this season. Again, obviously, I said this earlier. Toto Wolff just claiming that Red Bull, they are the benchmark at the moment. That's not what we've seen. But then again, Toto Wolff is just he's a great politician. I like to see him talk to the media, and he says he hides a lot of stuff. That was the video. That was my ranking of all of the teams. If you have any questions, any doubts, let us. Just let me know in the comments what your predictions for Formula One season. I'll be hosting practice sessions, the qualifying as well as the race. If you enjoy this type of content, consider subscribing to the channel. Until the next video, take care.